Hey guys, Danny Johnson here, and today we're going to be removing the radiator on our 2015 Yukon Denali.
And just remember, you want it to cool down before you work on it.
We're going to start by taking our 10mm socket, and it helps with an extension, and we're going to go after the negative battery terminal. We want to remove this because we will be dealing with some electrical connectors, and you can short some things out. Next, we're going to take a flat screwdriver and we're going to loosen up the clamp here for our air box. So we'll take that one off. There are some vacuum lines as well that you just push up on the tab and slide away from. We're going to take the one off on the driver's side and over on the passenger side. So just push down on that tab to release it. And we're also going to take off the clamp that goes to the throttle body here. So we'll just loosen this one up as well. And then we can slide this entire air box off and pull it out of the way.
Now we're going to come in with two of our 10mm bolts, I think they were, just to take off our radiator fan. So we're going to move that line out of the way. The lower hose can just be pulled out. Here's our clips for the radiator fan. As you see, you push down on it and you slide these ones off. So they take a little wiggling there, but we're going to go ahead and remove one. Now it has the same plug on both sides, but one's reversed where you can't see it as well. We've got a Christmas tree plug here that we're removing to get it away from, get this harness away from the electric fan. We're just going to walk that out with a pair of pliers. Okay. We also have a Christmas tree plug for our two air conditioning line heat transcooler lines. Okay, now we're going to bring in a little funnel here. We're going to drain the coolant out of the radiator. So the upper hose here, we're going to get a lot of it out.
We're going to pull this hose off of the water pump, but you want to follow it and also disconnect it where it connects to the radiator. We have some cooler lines that we're going to remove, and they're a little tricky with these springs out. So you want to take a pick, and if you're looking at the front of these radiator lines, you come in behind it with the pick, and you have to pry these little rings out. And so you'll get a good idea here what this looks like. So just get under it on one side, and as it pries up, make sure it doesn't fling across into the engine bay where you can't find it, but you're basically prying one side up and out of that little notch that it's in. So the radiator has lines on both sides. On the driver's side, it's going to be for the transmission cooler, so you will lose a little bit of the transmission fluid, but as you can see, we're just popping that clip out from one side, getting it out of that little channel notch, and then pulling the clip out. So be careful with these and put them somewhere where you won't lose them. Then the lines just pull straight out, and so you're going to do that on all of these. This line I'm working on, you see the transmission fluid start to come out here, and it's pretty tight, and this one loops around to the back side where it then goes in to the AC condenser. So pull all of these lines out, and then the top one, we're going to move a line here. This is on the passenger side, so we're going to go ahead and remove that off. There's a 13mm bolt on each side for the radiator itself, so go ahead and remove both of those. There's also this little radiator hose here at the bottom, and we've drained the fluid, so not a lot's coming out. To get to the little bracket that's down in here that's holding the radiator to the AC condenser, we can get in here okay. It is easier if you take the air box out. Now the radiator sits down inside of the AC condenser, so you're actually lifting the AC condenser. You're pushing down on this tab, and you're lifting the AC condenser up and then out.
Okay, so we need to lift this tab and the bottom tab up first, and that gives you a lot more wiggle room. Then on this side, it's the same thing. This tab has to come out, it lifts straight up and out, as well as this tab is lifting up and out as well when we push in that tab, just like the other side, but it helps to get one side loose first, then the other.
Now we can pull the radiator up and out.
Okay, drop the radiator back into place.
make sure that this line is coming from behind the condenser to the front. And now we're just sliding these clips back on. Put that in the channel. Just grab this to come around until it pops right in.
Next, we're just looking at all of our transmission cooler lines on this side. We're looking at the coolant lines on the right-hand side as well. And we're putting the radiator in place with our two 15mm bolts. Make sure to reinstall the hose over here that goes on at the lower portion of the radiators. Next comes in the cooling fan, electric fan, and it takes a little wiggling. You gotta get it down here at certain angles and watch those hoses. It would probably be better to put this on before the hoses if you can help it. That might help you a little bit. Otherwise, it's a bunch of wiggling around. Next we have our fans, and so just remember one of these plugs goes on upside down compared to the other one. So line them up and put them in. Pop your hose back in with the clips. We're going to start hooking up any of these coolant hoses that we can find that go back to the radiator. These are coming from the expansion tank, working their way over. We have this coolant line that's going down onto the thermostat. Now as we add the coolant into the system, we're going to start with the radiator. Fill it up first and then do the rest.
So we filled in this hose. It's starting to come out here, so the radiator's full. We're now going to put this onto the water pump. There we go. Put our clamp on here. Now we're going to continue to fill from here and even the degas until it starts coming out of the thermostat. So take the degas one. It's already off, but just remove the cap there. Okay, we're filling, this is a high point, and it's starting to come back up the degas bottle. And it's going to be coming out of here pretty soon at the thermostat.
Now just go back through and look everywhere you can find a clamp for the hoses. There's going to be some on the lower part of the radiator, the upper part, and from the degas bottles. Just keep filling it, squeeze the hoses, you'll see it kind of burp some air out. And then we're going to make sure that on the degas bottle we do fill that to the full level line and drive the car around with the heater on full blast, and then you'll notice maybe that line has come down a little bit as it continues to burp. So you just want to keep an eye and keep adding it to the cold fill level. Now we can bring our air box back in, and so we're just putting it in place and tightening it down on the worm clamps. We've got the one over here as well. We did not take out the mass airflow for this video, but I have to show you plugging this in or it's going to drive me crazy. So I'm just going to plug this back in. For our vacuum hoses, we just push them from behind here until they click into place. Have one on each side here. Now we'll reinstall the negative battery cable with our 10mm socket. We're just kind of looking anywhere we have our degas lines or other hoses to make sure that they're all attached and make sure nothing came loose during the process. Gonna go ahead and put our cap back on and drive the vehicle around until it gets up to operating temperature, again with the heat on full blast. That'll help burp the system. On this, and we don't want to forget about the transmission. So we need to add some transmission fluid for what we lost from the trans-cooler lines. There are 3 10mm bolts on this heat shield on the passenger side of the transmission. And so what you're going to do is come, and you don't even have to take them all the way out. We just need to drop this down to where we can see this fill plug. So you can use a 10mm bendable head ratchet. Really worked well for these bolts to get up in here. But where that plastic cap is there on the right, that's our fill plug. There is no dipstick tube on the 8-speed, so you're going to pull the top of that cap up to release it. And so once you pop it up like this and it's loose, now we can pull the rest of it out. So you can get a screwdriver up in there, or just be very careful because it is rubber. You don't want to tear it, but eventually we can pop this plug out,
And now we're going to bring in a pump, and we're going to pump in some transmission fluid. So I pumped in 1 full quart, and it ended up being too much. I'll show you how we bleed it off in the end anyway, but it's going to be this synthetic LV-ATF HP. So very important on this step. So we're going to go ahead and pump this in here, and once we put about a quart in there, we put our plug back in. So make sure the plug is up, push it down in, and then press that cap down in. Now we can take our heat shield and we can line it back up with those 10mm bolts, just going back in the side, and then there's 2 of them at the top. Ratcheting wrench again worked really well for this 10mm bendable head. Now what we want to do is put it into tow haul mode. When you push that button, you'll get a temperature sensor that sweeps in, and we just need it coming up warm. It doesn't have to be all the way operating temperature, but you want it warm. So then we're going to take a 10mm socket, and on the very front of the transmission pan there is this overflow plug. So it's not a drain plug. It will drain the fluid, but it's not the pan's regular drain plug. So what you do is you remove it until it's flowing out, and when it turns to just a little drip, that's when you put that back in. Do not burn yourself on the exhaust. Even though I tell you not to, I burn myself. It's down there and it's hot. So anyway, everything else was looking good here. So we decided to take it for a little test drive.
Put a bill
I'm sure they're a little low from sitting. I drove the temps there, they were pretty good there.
Have it running perfectly smooth. So hopefully this video helps you out. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and check the video description for more information on all this. If you're new to the channel, feel free to subscribe. I have a whole bunch of videos on the Yukon, and we'll keep you updated. Thanks, guys.